What do elderly people fear most in their later years? An old man confesses, it's not about being penniless, it's about family drift. Growing old is an inevitable part of life for every elderly person. They hold their own expectations for life, but one of their deepest desires is to grow old alongside their loved ones, relying on each other. Unfortunately, things often don't go as planned. As people reach old age, there are certain fears that become prominent. So, what is it that elderly people fear the most in their later years? A 63-year-old man confessed that the greatest fear isn't about not having money, but the drifting apart of loved ones. Why did he say this? Let's take a look at his story. Narrated by 63-year-old Zhang. Zhang, who is now 63, is gradually stepping into old age. Reflecting on his later years, he expressed that he's not afraid of much, but he fears growing apart from his wife. People often say, young couples become companions in old age, and Zhang felt the same way. He hoped that he and his wife could support each other in their later years, becoming each other's strength, growing old together until death. Sadly, life didn't turn out as he had hoped. As time passed, instead of becoming closer, Zhang and his wife drifted apart. They were more like strangers than companions. He couldn't understand why things turned out this way. In the beginning, Zhang and his wife had a loving relationship, even though their marriage was arranged. Despite the initial hardships, financial difficulties, working various jobs to make ends meet, their relationship was strong. Zhang recalled how both of them worked hard, from farming to moving bricks on construction sites and even working during holidays to earn more money. Life was tough, but their bond was solid. They appreciated and understood each other's struggles. When did things start to change? It seemed to happen after they moved into a new house and started having more money. The affection between them began to fade. They went from sharing everything to keeping secrets from each other. Zhang's wife started demanding more money, and once she had it, she was reluctant to spend it. Even when Zhang needed money urgently, she would suggest he borrow it rather than give him the money she had saved. Zhang was frustrated by this and decided to save his money in the bank, keeping only 2,000 yuan per month for household expenses. This decision enraged his wife, who couldn't accept the change in control over the finances. She began to resent Zhang, refusing to do his laundry or cook for him, accusing him of spending money on another woman. Initially, Zhang tried to smooth things over, but his wife insisted that unless he handed over all his money, her attitude wouldn't change. Zhang tried reasoning with her, explaining that he wasn't spending the money irresponsibly, but she wouldn't listen. As a result, their relationship deteriorated, and they became like strangers living under the same roof. Zhang, frustrated and unable to meet his wife's demands, now wonders what he should do. He hopes others can offer advice. In his view, both men and women in a household should understand and care for each other, not act selfishly, which only leads to hurt and estrangement. Why do many single elderly people hire caregivers nowadays? In recent years, it has become increasingly common for elderly people to hire caregivers. Some might wonder why they spend so much on caregivers rather than saving the money to help their children or relying on them for care. After all, keeping wealth within the family has been a traditional value passed down through generations. Typically, hiring a caregiver is a necessity, often for those who are bedridden or unable to care for themselves. However, a new trend has emerged where elderly people who are still physically capable choose to hire caregivers rather than live with their children or find a new partner. Caregiver's perspective. Lu, a 47-year-old caregiver, sheds light on this phenomenon. Lu, who has worked as a caregiver for 27 years, explains that many single elderly people who hire caregivers don't do it for the physical help, they're seeking companionship. Lu shares her own story. She came from a poor family and couldn't afford to attend college, even though she had been accepted. Instead, she took up farming in her rural hometown. An opportunity arose when a distant relative needed help caring for an elderly family member, which marked her entry into the caregiving profession. Over the years, Lu worked for various employers and gained extensive experience. She noticed a common pattern among her elderly clients. Many hired caregivers not because they couldn't care for themselves, but because they didn't want to burden their children or deal with the complexities of a new marriage. Lu recalls one of her employers, Zhang Chengshan, a 71-year-old retired official. Zhang was in good health, had substantial savings, and received regular financial support from his children. Yet, instead of remarrying or living with his children, he hired Lu as his caregiver. Zhang explained to Lu that he didn't want to find a new partner because previous attempts at dating had shown that women were only interested in his money. Similarly, living with his children proved to be inconvenient since they were too busy with their own lives. Hiring a caregiver allowed Zhang to have companionship without the complications of a new relationship or the stress of living with family. Lu continues to see similar situations in her current job, where she cares for Zhu, a healthy 64-year-old woman with 3 children. Zhu prefers to live independently and hires a caregiver not for assistance but for companionship. Lu reflects that, for many elderly people, hiring a caregiver is less about care and more about having someone to talk to and avoid loneliness. Conclusion. The trend of single elderly people hiring caregivers highlights the difficulties in maintaining relationships with both family and potential partners. Many fear the complications of new relationships or imposing on their children. Hiring a caregiver offers a simple solution to these concerns, providing companionship without the challenges that come with living with family or finding a new spouse. If you have a different perspective, feel free to discuss it in the comments. As we reflect on the growing number of elderly individuals hiring caregivers, it's important to recognize a broader societal issue: loneliness in old age. Despite advances in technology and communication, many elderly people find themselves increasingly isolated, even if they have families. Children often move far away for work or lead busy lives, leaving their aging parents feeling neglected or like a burden. For the elderly, this loneliness can be far more daunting than the fear of financial insecurity or physical decline. While hiring caregivers provides a solution to this issue, it also raises a question about how we, as a society, should be addressing the emotional and social needs of our older population. Shouldn't we be encouraging stronger family bonds, more intergenerational living arrangements, or community programs that foster connection? After all, while caregivers can offer great support, they may never fully replace the warmth and understanding that comes from family members. As we continue to advance as a society, ensuring that the elderly don't grow old in isolation must become a priority. Addressing this need for companionship, love, and connection may well be the key to helping people live longer, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. Alright, that's all for today's sharing. Thank you for watching. I hope today's content resonated with you. For those who haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click subscribe so we can accompany you every day. Let's grow together, be happy together, and slowly grow old together. See you next time.